So we're moving on in our book, Keys to Teaching Grammar to English Language Learners by Keith Folse. Again, great book, highly recommend it. We are in chapter 4, the hot seat, or frequently asked questions. So if a student raises their hand and stumps you in class, right, these are aimed to kind of give you a quick reference to address those questions, giving your students the answers they deserve. So, first question is the adjective word order question. Like, teacher, why is it a big house and why is it not a house big? So as you can see in this awesome map that I found on Google, um, this is the spread of languages across the world. And the purple, as you can see, is a noun adjective order in the world. So like the house big, the cat small, and that's the correct. So I know French and Spanish are like this, and obviously a bunch of others, versus the adjective than the noun. So as you can see in English, Chinese, it looks like Russian, and these, I want to say Slavic languages, but I could be wrong. I'm not actually a linguist. So um, anyway, so here's the visual, and then I will apologize in advance. Some of these slides with explanations get very wordy. But I believe that you can stick with me because you are smart, whether you are a language student or someone who is looking to learn how to teach or help someone else learn language. So this is a question you would usually get from beginner or low intermediate students, according to Folse. I have no counter evidence to that, so I'm going to roll with it. In English, adjectives become before the noun. That's all you really have to say to your students, unless they don't know what adjectives or nouns are, and that is beyond the scope of this book or this video to teach currently. So it is actually addressed earlier in the book, so there will probably be another video out about adjectives and nouns and parts of speech at some point. Anyway, so to give practice, identifying nouns and adjectives in other examples is a great way to start teaching or giving practice. So it can be identifying adjectives and nouns in your textbook or reader. So example, we're going through this book in our classes, and this is a level 3 class reading, so our highest proficiency level. And we can just go through and like circle the nouns, underline the adjectives, or we've been personally focusing on adverbs. So, and then it's pretty easy to go through and like, well, slowly, what is the opposite of slowly? Quickly. We don't want them to say fastly. That's an irregular, or I don't know if it's irregular, it's just not a word. So, and then practice the form. So practice the students producing the form. An article, so a, like a or an, and then the adjective, and then a singular count noun. Also the, I believe, like a chair, the chair. So, and the exact terms for those types of articles, determiners, is escaping me right now, so I stumped myself. Good job. Anyways, moving on. We're probably going to do about 2 questions per video. I don't actually want to cover up. So if those of you who are a stickler for citations and citing your sources, I didn't realize the color didn't show up very well, but the number of the page of the textbook where I'm getting the information from is on the slides, and then the pictures are cited in the notes of the slide. So it looks like I actually forgot one, so that's kind of embarrassing. Anyways, inverted word order with negative expression. So this isn't actually one I've had a student ask me about, but I thought it was interesting. So like, why is it never has it been so cold in my entire life? Why is that correct? Because it doesn't, the adverbs usually don't go at the very front. So it might just sound weird to them. So rarely do I need a jacket. So what that kind of is saying is it's easier to hear what sounds funny versus like what you know for sure sounds right. Yeah, because it might just sound uncommon, and then they don't have the knowledge to know it's right or wrong. So anyway, so what doesn't fit into a pattern versus what definitely is the definitive. So because like there's a lot of ways to do things wrong. Usually there's only 1 or 2 ways to do things right. Moving on, it's a bit of a tangent. Rarely do I need a jacket. Seldom has he ever studied for a test. Always do I cook with a recipe. Never will I drive at night again. So one of these is incorrect. So this is an example of a multiple choice, and actually only one of these is incorrect. If you guessed the always do I cook with a recipe is incorrect, then you are correct that this is incorrect. And so the rule here is, again, this is the lots of words. So so what Folse says is that this is a high, intermediate, or advanced question. So never, seldom, and rarely. That was a vocabulary word this week for us, actually. Rarely, and we practice the sound, especially like two kind of in a row, like rarely, and you gotta like blah, 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 especially with the L in there. Another word is rural is difficult, like you don't live urban, you're not an urban dweller, you're a rural person. It's all blah, blah. So, anyways, moving on. That's going to be on the internet now. That's fine. Never, seldom, and rarely are examples of negative words indicating frequency. So these are negative adverbs of frequency. And by negative, we mean, never, not, versus the positive ones are always or often. And then even neutral ones, like sometimes, occasionally, don't really work with this expression. So one thing you can do is generate other examples, like rarely do I have room for leftovers in the fridge. Seldom do I stay up late doing homework. I wish. So pointing out if you take away the negative frequency word, what's left looks like a question grammatically. So if you cover up, and I realize I can't really point with my fingers, so if you cover up, that's why I underlined it, I guess. So do I have room in the fridge for leftovers? No, not really. Rarely. Rarely do I have. So that's again the inverted word order. So if you try substituting in a positive word of frequency or even a neutral one, see what happens. Sometimes do I stay up late doing homework? It's not correct. Always do I stay? No, not correct. Thus, we can see the pattern or rule that relates negative words of frequency, only the negative ones, to this grammatical question structure. So it's often used in writing to put emphasis on, like, this is really not a thing. I have not heard it spoken except like in these examples, I think. But it's also not one of those forms that jumps out at me when I hear it. Like, oh, that's a like special grammatical form. Like, I don't think I would blink twice at this form. So, yeah, so I'm going to pause before we move on to question 3. It looks like I have to edit some of my slides. So thank you for sticking with me.